is Beatrice Adu. The news is also live on Kesmi 107.1 FM and across the world at 3news.com. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Protesters in Kenya vow to continue their demonstrations against new tax hikes a day after at least 22 people were killed and scores wounded. This afternoon, we keep the tabs on the situation in the East African nation as Parliament approves for soldiers to flood the streets against the protesters. Also, President Akufo-Addo directs the management and board of the Social Security and National Insurance Trust SNIT, together with organized labor, to resolve discrepancies in the sale agreement of the 6 SNIT hotels within 2 weeks. We'll touch base with our labor correspondent Daniel Poku, who has details for us. Also this afternoon, Ghana Plastic Manufacturers Association demands the immediate suspension of the newly implemented 5% excess tax on all locally manufactured plastic products. Thank you very much for joining us. We are starting this afternoon's bulletin in East Africa, where at least 22 people have been confirmed dead following violent protests across Kenya over tax hikes. The death toll, many fear, could increase after the President, William Ruto, announced the deployment of the military to quell the protests, which have lasted for 3 days already. As of this morning, armed police were seen firing tear gas canisters amidst reports of military raids at dawn in different parts of the country. We'll take you to Kenya very shortly because we do know that some Ghanaian MPs as well were caught up in the protests when part of the Kenyan parliament was set ablaze yesterday. But let's touch base now on why the protest started in the first place.
An online outpouring of anger over tax increases has swelled into a nationwide protest movement. They've been calling for a political overhaul in the most serious crisis of President William Ruto's 2-year-old presidency.
Mr. President! Mr. President! Watch us!
Many social media users focused on President Ruto's speech after the classes in which he said the attack on Parliament was the work of criminals pretending to be peaceful protesters.
Mr. Speaker, sir! I'm here to address you. You must go. Ruto must go.
President William Ruto said in his televised address to the nation late on Tuesday that the debate about the tax measures, which lawmakers passed minutes before Parliament was breached, had been hijacked by dangerous people. The government ordered the army deployed to help the police deal with a security emergency, though there were no reports of troops on the streets of Nairobi on Wednesday. Last week, protesters had circulated a schedule that called for the occupation of Parliament on Tuesday and the occupation of State House, the President's office, and residence on Thursday. Lawmakers removed some tax hikes from the final version of the finance bill, including ones on bread and cooking oil, but inserted others in an effort to avoid a budget gap. Protesters say they want the whole bill scrapped, and many are now demanding that Ruto resigns.
Government treat us like foreigners in this place. We are rejecting every single bill no matter what. In that finance. We are rejecting it, every clause.
President Ruto won election almost 2 years ago on a platform of championing Kenya's working poor, but has been caught between the competing demands of lenders, such as the International Monetary Fund, which is urging the government to cut deficit to obtain more funding, and a hard-pressed population.
And there was a report giving you details of the protests in Kenya. We'll bring you some more on that. But 5 Ghanaian legislators and the Clerk of Parliament Local Government Committee have been caught up in the violent demonstration ongoing in Kenya over new taxes. The Member of Parliament for Ogbodu, Ni Lante Vanderpoy, who is part of a Ghanaian delegation of MPs to Kenya, says the situation is quite chaotic. Listen to him speak to us earlier from Kenya.
They ran away. All the MPs ran away. In fact, their security and their drivers had to drive away. And you see, the people had taken over the street, so you can't even drive out of the precincts of Parliament. So they had to go and hide most of their cars and in the, what do you call it, the bunker under the main building, the administrative building. The speaker was, in fact, first taken away. He came to meet us in the library when we were taken first, but they felt the library was not safe for him. So they had to take him out of the library. We don't know where they went and kept him, but that was when they were looking for a safe place for us, the foreign delegations who were around. So first it was the library, from the library to the tunnel, from the tunnel to the bunker, from the bunker to one of the committee rooms upstairs. It's been, you know, what they did today was not different from what we saw in the United States of America on January 6th, 2021. It's almost like the same thing.
And you heard the MP for Dododio Ni Lante van der Poy and journalist with NTV in Kenya, Melita Oletenge's report that at least 22 people are already dead. This is coming at a time we do understand that some minutes ago Parliament approved the deployment of soldiers on the streets against the protests. Take a listen.
They feel that the government is really pushing them back against the wall at a time when there has been a very harsh economic condition, harsh economic times, and that is why the protesters have been taking to the streets. So the situation as of now is also we've had the Parliament consent to a gazette notice by the Cabinet Secretary in charge of defense, which means now that the military will be deployed to actually contain the situation. But there has been no announcement of any particular dispensation of or handing over power. The president is still the president, but the military will be out now to protect what we have seen as violence, and particularly against Parliament.
Indeed. So, Melita, this approval you're talking about, I do know that the National Assembly approved it just some minutes ago, and there are even concerns being raised about whether or not there was consensus because per Kenya's constitution, you're supposed to have a quorum, which is about 50% in terms of representation, and the concerns are that they don't, Parliament probably might not have had that because this was done in about 30 minutes. But can you tell us just a little bit more about this protest against this approval, and indeed the repercussions of seeing the military on the streets against this protest, as it were?
Well, you're right. The Parliament has actually approved that particular proposal to have the military out of the barracks and into the streets just today, that is on Wednesday morning. But there has been a very vague reliance of information. First of all, newsrooms are yet to receive any footage or rather any signal from Parliament. This means that this has happened only to the knowledge of the members of Parliament in the chambers. I remember Parliament yesterday was invaded by protesters, and there was a lot of destruction inside Parliament. And this means that to some extent the operations were affected, and many thought that it would take time before MPs resume and actually make critical decisions. But this coming in the wake of the demos has brought many questions to the citizenry, because they are asking how then could they pass such a critical bill at a time when Kenya literally is in dire straits.
Do you foresee violence escalating beyond what we've seen? I mean, yesterday seems to have been the worst.
Well, this defiance has actually started from what was considered very peaceful protest in the capital, Nairobi, and beyond in different towns across the country. But it has now sort of developed to some sort of insurrection, because it is now outright defiance, not just against the punitive taxes that they are out demonstrating against, but also the government. Yesterday, we had the president giving a statement just right after the demos, stating that this will be taken as a criminal act by organized criminal gangs, and he said that the government will use all apparatus within its power to ensure that they also respond. So this means that this has actually provoked demonstrators in their thousands who went to the streets on Thursday, Tuesday, yesterday, and the last Tuesday. And this means that even on social media, we have witnessed statements stating that they remain unbowed. And so tomorrow they are threatening to demonstrate towards State House, where President William Ruto works and lives. And that is, or will rather be, the hallmark of this whole defiance.
Can you please confirm the number of deaths from this protest for us?
The Kenya National Human Rights Commission has just released a statement indicating that 22 people died in Tuesday protests, but those numbers could go higher because there are still investigations going on, especially in different informal settlements where it was reported that there was an upsurge overnight, and we have police and different investigating agencies now on ground trying to ascertain how many people have lost their lives, how many are injured. We've also noted that the hospitals received many casualties on Tuesday, and even today morning, there are still people who are seeking treatment and medical attention. So we are following up on that as well. So this number could go up, but as of now, the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights has reported 22.
And you heard Melita Oletenges. He's a journalist with NTV in Nairobi, Kenya, bringing us up to speed update from that protest there. Let me remind you that the protesters are on the street against 16% tax on goods and services, including bread. Also tax on sanitary towels, which is under the eco levy. Import tax on certain items about 2.5%, and also to remind you that Kenya's public debt as it now stands at 68% to GDP, and the tax increases are to help the government get about $2.7 billion. Or stay on tax issues, and the Ghana Plastic Manufacturers Association has issued a stern warning to the government, demanding the immediate suspension of the newly implemented 5% excise tax on all locally manufactured plastic products. Speaking at a press conference, the president of the Ghana Plastic Manufacturers Association, Ogbodu, said that the tax will have severe repercussions on the economy and everyday life in Ghana. Noble Crosby-Annan is monitoring this for us in Accra. He joins us live. Noble, why is the association against this newly implemented 5% excise tax beyond what I talked about, which is the effect on everyday life?
So, Beatrice, on May 28th this year, the association held a press briefing to inform their stakeholders and the public about the intention of government to start the implementation of a new tax that was to affect all locally manufactured plastic products. Now, they did request government through the Ministry of Finance to delay its implementation so as to allow for better and a deeper consultation with all relevant stakeholders for a review. Now, today, June 24th, they have not received any response from the Ministry of Finance regarding this matter, even though they wrote to the minister some 8 weeks ago. Now, they're saying that it is very frustrating and disturbing that as they are waiting for the appropriate response from government, the GRA has started issuing demand notices and threats to plastic manufacturers, asking them to start filing for the 5% excise tax with effect from June 21, or face up with punitive penalties and possible lockup. They say they're not happy because they're still paying a 10% levy on 10% environmental and sanitation levy, and that is something they're not pleased about. So, if you're adding this 5%, wait, let us deliberate and come together with an agreed load of payments and which industries or which specific manufacturing companies and type of products will be required to pay this excess 5% excise tax, Beatrice.
And now, what do they intend to do beyond this press conference?
Well, the group is saying that, knowing that the tax in its current form is obnoxious and retrogressive, they're saying that they're giving government a 1 week ultimatum, and if government does not come to them and they finalize or fine-tune these existing challenges. This is what they are going to do. Now, we know that a lot of sectors in the country depend on plastic manufacturers for their livelihoods or for their existence. So we're looking at plastic packaging, household wares, agriculture, building, construction, pharmaceuticals, herbal medicine, food and beverages. A lot of industries, they rely heavily on plastic products. They're saying that they will lay down their tools for a week. And just a week is going to have severe consequences on the Ghanaian economy. So they're saying that they employ over 39,000 people, including auxiliary workers, and they generate over 1.89 million jobs in plastic waste recycling alone. So if they go on strike, all of these sectors will be affected. And if this 5% excise tax begins with them, they're going to transfer the cost to the consumer. So it means cost of bottled water, cost of plastic products, cost of pens, toothbrushes, anything.
We'll have to listen to the voice of Abel White, who represents the Ghana Plastics Manufacturers Association.
Be harsh on the common man, as wide range of industries whose products are consumed daily, including food and beverage, retail, water, medicines, and manufacturing, will all be severely affected. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, we come to you again for you to bring to the attention of the general public that if this new tax is implemented in its current form, it will bring with it a severe cascading high price effect on prices of products that affect our everyday life, because plastics and plastic packaging forms about 98% of our daily basic needs. Let me remind you that over 92% of industries and businesses in Ghana depend on Ghana plastic manufacturers for all their plastic packaging needs, and this will inevitably cause a widespread increased cost in production, which will lead to higher prices for the consumer.
You heard Ebo Boche. He is with the Ghana Plastics Manufacturers Association, speaking to journalists earlier at that press conference. Now, the Court of Appeal has thrown out an application filed by Reverend Kusi Victor Kisibuating, Secretary to the Board of Trustees of the National Cathedral Project. The suit sought to restrain the Member of Parliament for North Tongue Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa from discussing him in relation to the National Cathedral Project. Prior to Wednesday's ruling, the founder and overseer of the Power Chapel International had lost two similar suits at the High Court. Lord Edwasare is Amanda. He joins us live on the line. Lord, give us the details of this latest court decision.
Right, so Beatrice, the Court of Appeal dismissed or struck out the third appeal by Governor Edu, otherwise known as Reverend Kusi Boateng. Now, the court indicated that he did not comply with the rules of the court. Now, you realize or recall that Reverend Kusi Boateng in his appeal has stated that the High Court judge erred in his ruling dismissing his contempt suit against the Member of Parliament for North Tongue, Ogbodu Ablakwa. But in their decision, the three-member panel of justices indicated that he did not comply with the rules of the court, in that when you cite a High Court judge and bring a case for appeal, you need to state the kind of error that you say that the judge had made. And that wasn't established. And so there was no grounds for which his appeal would hold, and that was the reason why they dismissed this appeal against Member of Parliament for North Tongue, Okudzeto Ablakwa. And now, even prior to that, you recall that yesterday there was an issue of bias being raised by lawyers for Ablakwa side, and they were objecting to the reconstitution of the panel, which is going to hear the appeal. Now, this objection was also dismissed by the court, indicating that the basis for which their lawyers were citing bias or indicating that they may not get a fair hearing in the case was that they had cited a newspaper report, which you recall yesterday that the lawyer for Reverend Kwesi Boateng indicated that were merely speculations. The court held that these allegations were non-founded and were not grounded in law and were, again, merely speculations because they weren't able to prove any evidence that there was any such report or that the panel would be biased in its hearing of the case.
Thank you very much, Lord Oduasare. He's our court correspondent. And let me tell you that the court also awarded the defendant Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa 3,000 cedis after throwing out the case brought in by Reverend Kwesi Boateng. You're still here on the Midday News on 3FM. When we come back, we'll tell you what the president is saying about the next move concerning the SNIT hotel sales. Stay with us.
Now is an opportune moment for investors to consider the remarkable investment opportunity presented by the Floria Residence, the pinnacle of luxury living in Cantonment. Offering a range of options from executive studios to lavish penthouses, including 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and 3-bedroom apartments. Amenities and services includes round-the-clock security services, dedicated play areas, a bustling commercial zone, state-of-the-art fitness facilities and gym, a well-appointed conference room, an elegant rooftop sky bar, and a breathtaking rooftop infinity swimming pool. Additionally, residents benefit from the convenience of a secured 3-floor underground car park, while those residing in the ocean view penthouses enjoy unparalleled vistas. We are located opposite the Laboni Palace Mall, Accra. Contact us on 0595 700008.
And you're still here on the Midday News on 3FM. Thank you for staying. Now, management of the Northern Electricity Distribution Company, NEDCO, has given the indication that it is working assiduously to resolve the recent power challenges affecting Salaga and part of the Eastern Corridor. Reacting to a demonstration by residents of the area in the East Gonja municipality on excessive power challenges, the company said that they are employing short and medium-term strategies of installing automatic power regulators to remedy the situation. We do have on the line with us Christopher Amwako, who has the latest on this. Chris, tell us more about this plan the NEDCO intends to implement.
Yes, so Beatrice, with the short and medium-term plans that NEDCO intends to implement, they are talking about the fact that they will have to trace some faults on the line and also install some auto power regulators to ensure that the power that gets to Salaga is not interrupted. What they are saying is that the line from Tamale through Yendi to Bimbila to Salaga it's a lengthy line, and so anytime there is a break in any part of the line, it obviously will have to affect Salaga. So that is what they are considering to do now. The medium term is that there is construction of a substation at Lamashago in Tamale, and so when that one is completed, they will hook Salaga to that substation to, as it were, resolve that challenge. But the long-term remedy is to hook Salaga to a different line from Bupe in the Central Gonja district, and that will cost a lot of money, and they do not have the mandate or capacity to be able to do that. And so what they are thinking of is to use short and medium-term remedy plans to work on the situation. The public relations officer of the Northern Electricity Distribution Company, Maxwell Kotoka, has been speaking to me. Let's take a listen to it.
Aware of the problems there, and management is working assiduously to address them in 3 phases: short-term, medium-term, and then the long-term, which unfortunately is beyond us, and we have not shied away from that. We have told them, including the youth of Salaga, in very clear terms and very sincerely, that the long-term solution is a substation, a primary substation on the corridor. Unfortunately, that is beyond us. We have shared that with them. Indeed, we had engaged them a number of times.
And you heard Maxwell Kotuka, he speaks for the NECO. President Akufo-Addo has directed the Management and Board of Social Security and National Insurance Trust, SNIT, together with organized labor, to within 2 weeks resolve the discrepancies in the sale agreement of the SNIT hotels. The president gave the directive after a meeting with leadership of organized labor in Accra. And we do have in the studio with us Labor Affairs correspondent Daniel Opoku. Daniel, you were at this meeting from morning until, I believe, the close of it yesterday. Can you tell us really more about this directive to address discrepancies in this deal?
Right. So President Akufo-Addo, as you rightly pointed, has invited the leadership of Labour. And after yesterday's meeting, realized that Labour was not too happy with the right of the president when he asked them to go and sit with the management of SNIT and the board to get the issues resolved. Because Labour initially had wanted the total cancellation of the project.
Exactly.
But unfortunately, that did not happen. Now, President said, go and look at the content of the agreement, look at the difficulties, the discrepancy anomalies involved, then get those anomalies resolved, then come back and report to him, so that after 2 weeks, there'll be a firm and concrete comment from the president on the agreement. But it doesn't look like the agreement will be cancelled. Why? Because Mr. Brian Echambo, from where he sits, is purely a businessman. And when a businessman expresses interest in such deals, and it's termed as conflict of the president is of the view that that is not proper. So it's one of the reasons they may have to sit and get those issues resolved and come back to him. Then he makes a statement on that one.
Obviously, Labour is not happy, like you said, but does it sound like, or does it look like it's probably also having a compromised position, as it were, after having that extensive meeting with the president?
You wouldn't say that they were compromised, because they met in the morning yesterday before they went to the evening's meeting. They took about 3 items to the meeting. One has to do with the cost of living allowance, which President Akufo-Addo said that the Minister of Finance was out of the jurisdiction. Obviously, he has to come back to know what is in the kitty before he can take a decision on that one. Another one has to look at the total restructuring of SNIT. President said yes, he agrees to that, but must go through some parliamentary amendments. The final one was the SNIT one, the SNIT hotels, where President believes that they have to sit and look at the agreement again, resolve these problems, and come back to him. So if they are unable to resolve that, it means that the issue will still linger on. But I understand within 2 weeks, they are supposed to bring something concrete. And Labour is not happy because they are disappointed, even though they will sit in the meeting. That I don't see the agreement being cancelled. The agreement is likely to go through.
So that would be just a directive on one of the 3 items that they went into the meeting for.
Very well.
What about the 2?
The other ones have to do with the arrears payment when it comes to the government indebtedness to SNIT.
I mean, you talked about the finance minister being out of the jurisdiction.
And that's relation to the cost of living allowance. No, from January to June this year, government gave 23% to public sector workers. And from next month to December, just 2% to be added, making it 25%. So Labour is of the view that that percentage has been chiseled out. Government must introduce something to cushion them. So President is saying that unless the Minister of Finance comes back, then there will be a proper discussion. Let's not forget that they are supposed to sit and begin negotiations for 2025 base pay. So when the Minister of Finance comes back, it is something that they'll be sitting to look at. And all these issues will play, the general economic conditions are likely to factor more than subsequent negotiations.
Thank you very much, Daniel Opoku. And you heard there Daniel Opoku, he's our Labour Affairs correspondent, bringing us update from that meeting between President Akufo-Addo and organised Labour about the sale of 60% stake of SNIT in some 4 hotels. And you might have heard there, the president has given a directive to both SNIT and organised Labour to address the discrepancies and report within 2 weeks. My name is Beatrice Adu. Thank you very much for joining us today. Log on to shrinews.com for more news. Have a good afternoon.
2016-2017.
And the winner is John Hughes. Check.
Hi, my name is Johnny Hughes, your community rights advocate, and I'm still on the quest to bring smiles into your communities with Community Connect on 3FM 92.7. Join me this and every Friday morning at 9 a.m. right here on 3FM, and together we will solve the problems bothering your communities.
I know your program is a program that always get a result. Myself, I'm a witness to that.
What can we do to help your community today in terms of education, health, sanitation, security, and all the issues in between from your community's perspective? Tune in to Community Connect every Friday morning at 9 a.m. as we get interactive live on radio and on Twitter at 3FM 927 and on Facebook at 3FM 92.7. Community Connect, helping solve your community problems.
Hello there, good afternoon and welcome to Business Daily here on 3FM 92.7. Coming up this afternoon, Ghana's economy projected to expand by 3.4%, lower than Fitch Solutions' 4.3% forecast. Will bring you details from research firm IC Africa, and economist Dr. Thuy Champong calls for strict scrutiny of future borrowings amid successful completion of government's debt restructuring. I am Michael Ogbodu. I'll bring you details of these and more shortly. Please stay. Well, thank you for staying with us. Straight into our top story. Latest statistics from research firm IC Africa has revealed that the economy will expand by about 3.4%, higher than the 2.9% growth rate in 2023. This is, however, lower than the 4.3% UK-based Fitch Solutions is projecting. The following 3 Business News Desk report has more.
According to IC Africa, the overall growth conditions and the outlook for key sectors, particularly the industrial activities, deepen its expectation for the start of modest economic recovery in 2024. Its 2024 forecast range for overall real gross domestic product growth is between 2.9% and 3.9%. Ghana's real sector showed green shoots of emerging recovery from 2023, with a stronger overall growth momentum in the first quarter of 2024, consistent with the full year 2024 growth outlook. Overall real GDP expanded by 4.7% year-on-year in the first quarter of 2024, outpacing the 3.1% outturn in the same period of 2023 and representing the highest quarterly growth since the second quarter of 2022. The overall growth recovery was powered by a rebound within the industrial sector, which expanded by 6.8% year-on-year as improved activity in key subsectors benefited from favorable base effects. However, a moderation in growth in agriculture, that is 4.1% year-on-year, and services sectors 3.3%, indicates the lingering fragility within the real sector, which was emphasized by the slower growth rate in non-oil real GDP at 4.2% year-on-year in Q1 2024.
So that was a 3 Business News Desk report. Away from that, economist Dr. Thuy Champong says consequences of future borrowings by government will be dire. According to him, his comment comes on the back of government's announcement of successful completion of its debt restructuring exercise. Speaking on Business Focus on TV3, Dr. Thuy Champong said there is the need for checks and balances in Ghana's debt management.
We can begin to, as a country, rule the line under this and focus on the big effort of actually building a more robust, sustainable economy and also live within, our means. And this is where I think some of the other proposals on the table not necessarily as part of this debt deal. But for example, that we should have a fund or re-establish the sinking fund so we have regular payments being there to service our debt obligations as and when they fall due. I also think, for example, the attempt to re-establish the Fiscal Council and also to resource Parliament with the capacity to effectively scrutinize the borrowings and the loans that we're contracting and the effect that it has on our debt going forward. And even something as simple as, that no new government projects will be committed to until you actually have done a rigorous fiscal impact analysis of that. These things going forward will be some of the checks and balances that we need.
So that was economist Dr. Theo Ichampon speaking there. Now, the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors, Seaboard, has welcomed the Ministry of Energy's directive mandating all entities involved in revenue assurance measures within the oil and gas sector to comply with the new standard. This standard was primarily developed collaboratively by the Ghana Standards Authority with the Ministry of Trade and Industry and other stakeholders. According to Seaboard, it believes that a single unified measurement system certified by the GSA is sufficient to ensure accurate and reliable data. It emphasized the importance of a streamlined and well-regulated oil and gas sector. The Chamber therefore advocates for a system where the private sector plays a more prominent role in managing specific aspects with the government maintaining an overarching regulatory framework and enforcing standards. Now, away from that, the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority says Ghana has made significant progress in digitizing its aviation processes to ensure safety in the country. According to the authority, Ghana has one of the busiest airports in Africa, which has necessitated the need for digitization for ease of access. Speaking to the media on the sidelines of its workshop discussing advancements, challenges, and future directives of Aeronautical Information Service in Ghana as the head of Aeronautical Information Services at the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority, Fidelia Kuma.
Now we have so many people traveling. We have so many aircraft flying in our airspace. And you know that airspaces do not expand because of the nature. If you are assigned, it's a defined area. So your airspace is the same. So once you have a lot of aircraft now flying in your airspace, it becomes very, very complex. And then it becomes quite difficult to manipulate, to maneuver in our airspace. And so there's a lot of information when it's on paper. So the digitization is to ensure that information is coded in the standardized and harmonized manner. And then all AIS organizations within the world, whatever information that we publish, they are able to, we are able to exchange it with them. And then they are also able to exchange it with us. So that makes it easier for airlines and then all pilots to get accurate, relevant, up-to-date information as soon as we publish that.
So you heard the head of Aeronautical Information Services at the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority, Fidelia Kuma, bringing an end to Business Daily here on 3FM 92.7. For more business stories, please check out our website at 3news.com/business. I am Michael Ogbodu. Thank you for listening. As always, please stay safe.